Hey there, my name's Michael, and I'm the content lead at Simply Wall Street. I'm really excited to share one of our latest additions to the platform, and that is Narratives. Narratives is a new feature that brings investors qualitative perspectives right alongside the quantitative analysis that you're used to finding on Simply Wall Street. If you stick around to the end, I'll show you where you can find these, how these can help you gain a deeper insight on any stock, and some of the cool improvements that you can expect coming in the near future. Anyway, let's get into it. Let's start with the purpose of narratives. As Peter Lynch says, we should know what we own and why we own it. Our vision with narratives is to allow investors to capture and share why they do or don't own a stock. This is done in two ways. Firstly, in the form of creating your own narrative, more on that later, and secondly, by consuming other investors' narratives on stocks to build your own perspective. Narratives add qualitative context to our quantitative analysis. Essentially, they're the stories behind the numbers. They're a new part of Simply Wall Street's platform that fosters community-driven insights to help you better grasp the underlying business, its future prospects, and ultimately make a more informed buy, sell, or hold decision. They're a place for investors to share their ideas, learn nuances about different business models and concepts, and discuss assumptions back and forth. Not only that, but narratives are living and breathing pieces of content. This means that as developments occur, they get updated by the investors so that you are kept up to speed with how someone's narrative is unfolding. So where can you find these narratives? For now, they're located on the company report page just under the My Notes section and just before the competitors' snowflakes. Since narratives are still in beta, and we've only got narratives on some of the largest companies in the US so far, I'll provide a list in the description of those stocks so you know where you can find them. However, we're gearing up to open the doors to community narratives soon, so if you'd like to contribute your own, all you have to do is click the Create Narrative button at the top right here to register your interest. We'll notify you when you can create your own narrative to share with the Simply Wall Street community. So, let's go through some current examples of how they're displayed on the company report. As you can see on these tiles here, we have two different narratives on Netflix. These tiles show us investors who wrote the narrative, the title of their piece, a quick glance on the start of their narrative, their valuation compared to the current stock price, the price at publication, and the date it was last updated. Here we can see one investor is bullish on the company, thinking it's undervalued, and the other investor is bearish on the company, thinking it's slightly overvalued at these prices. While these are currently located just on a stock's company report, we'll soon have a central place to discover all narratives. Now, let's click on one of these to see their narrative in more detail. Now, here's the narrative page. At the top of this page, you'll see the title, navigation bar, any announcements the investor has made since publishing it, the key takeaways, which summarize the entire narrative, and the sidebar, which shows their fair value estimate and some company information. As for the body of the narrative, you'll notice we have the catalysts, assumptions, risks, and comments. We provide this narrative format because we believe it guides a solid train of thought when stock investing, no matter the story. Don't worry though, when you're creating your own narrative, while this template is provided because we believe it'll help you structure your thoughts, it isn't a hard requirement, so don't stress about not finishing all of them. So, to start with, catalysts are the driving force behind a narrative, i.e., what future developments do you believe will occur? These drive your narrative regardless of whether you're bullish, bearish, or neutral on a stock. For example, do you think future product releases will increase future revenues? Do you think the dividend is unsustainable because tough competition will lower revenues? These are catalysts that describe the story you see unfolding in the future. In this example with Netflix, we can see this catalyst of ad plans should decrease churn and increase revenues, eventually. The investor then explains why Netflix's rollout of ad-supported plans should decrease churn, increase subscriber count, increase average revenue per member, and thus increase revenues. But he doesn't quantify any of those catalysts yet. That's where assumptions come in. Assumptions are where we ground our future expectations with a number. So in this example, two investors may agree that ad-supported plans will decrease churn and increase subscriber count, but they may disagree on the changes to the average revenue per member. This investor here assumes that average revenue per member increases 2% per year to reach $152 per year, while the other may assume it stays flat, for reasons that they can both discuss back and forth in the comments section. Next, risks are exactly what you'd imagine. What are the risks to my narrative not unfolding as expected? What are the factors that could derail my catalysts or assumptions? How likely are these risks? For example, in this narrative, the investor mentions how the recent writer and actor strikes could result in higher payments to both parties during productions, and then discusses how this would impact their assumptions and therefore valuation. They did an announcement earlier up on this exact item given the Writers Guild reached a deal recently, so I'd check in on that announcement after reading the whole narrative. You may be wondering about risks on a bearish narrative. Well, if I'm bearish on a stock, the risk section is there to show you what could go well for the company, i.e., if I'm expecting revenues to decline, is there a chance that revenues actually grow, and how likely is that? In this bearish narrative here, it appears that the investor is bullish on the company's future prospects, however bearish on the valuation at the moment. The risk section gives the investor a chance to show how they view certain risks, and more importantly, it helps us to think in probabilities rather than absolutes, because as you know, no investment is a sure bet and anything can happen. And finally, the valuation. This is where the investor brings it all together and shows how their catalysts, assumptions, and risks come together to arrive at their own estimate of fair value. Here you can see the final number that essentially quantifies their story and what valuation method they use to reach this figure. Now you know what they think the stock is worth, and you can see how they got there. What's great is that not only does this repeatable template make it easy to compare narratives beside each other, it also gives us the mental framework for how we should think about stock investments, and they can be as in-depth or as simple as the investor would like. Without having a well thought out narrative backed up by an estimate of fair value to guide our buy, sell or hold decisions, how are we supposed to make an informed investment decision? Without a valuation, our buy, sell or hold decisions aren't grounded in research and reasoning, they're often emotional, and that's what narratives with valuations are here to help us avoid. Valuations link the narrative, which is well thought out reasoning and research, with an investment decision, be it a buy, hold or sell. So, how can you get the most out of narratives? For starters, you can ask the investor any questions you want at the bottom of the narrative in the comments section. You can ask about anything from things they may not have considered to how they reach certain conclusions. Next, if you find anything in particular from the narrative useful, you can jot down notes as you're going in the sidebar. Simply click on Company Info and scroll down to click Add Note to create a new note, or See More to edit any previous notes you've taken on the company. Lastly, if you agree with the logic and assumptions of an investor's narrative, you can use the investor's estimate of fair value by copying it across to your own. On your watch list, you can adjust your fair value estimate based on what you think a business is worth, whether that's directly from an existing narrative or your own conclusions inspired by the narrative. Combining your notes with a fair value estimate will leave your watch list and portfolio in a much more completed state, where you'll know what you own in your portfolio or want to own in your watch list, why that is, and what you think it's worth. So what's coming soon? As mentioned at the start, narratives are still in beta, and we've got plenty of new improvements in the pipeline. To give you an idea of what's coming in the near term, here are a few things to keep an eye out for. Firstly, the ability to create your own narrative is coming. This will allow you to capture your narrative on each stock in your portfolio or watch list and why it's there, and monitor things as they unfold. Not only that, but you'll be able to get community feedback to help you cover all bases. As mentioned earlier, we're seeking expressions of interest to contribute your own narratives, so simply click that Create Narrative button at the top right of the company report to be notified when this is available. This will be available in beta in the next few months. Next, we're adding more interactive features like the ability to follow a narrative, meaning you can be notified whenever the investor updates their thinking or forecast as new information arises. Lastly, if you agree wholeheartedly with an investor's narrative and their valuation estimate, you'll be able to assign it to the stock, meaning you can copy what you own and why you own it from other investors. Of course, we're always gathering feedback and would love to hear from you. So if you have any suggestions, you can simply click Give Feedback near the top of any narrative to let us know your thoughts. And if you have any questions, please let us know in the comments section below or reach out to our support center. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, invest well.